Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit of $200. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back. All from Daily Racing Form, the most trusted name in horse racing.
Hi everyone, David Aragona here for another edition of the TimeformUS Road to the Derby series. In this video, we're heading down to Florida to check out Tampa's Road to the Kentucky Derby as they run their 20 qualifying point prep, the Grade 3 Sam F. Davis Stakes on Saturday. A field of 12 signed on. It's a pretty competitive bunch, but we do have a clearly defined favorite as we take a look at the field for this race in the number 7, W&L. And this is a horse who last won the Remsen Stakes at Aqueduct, going to have to try to prove that Remsen curse will be broken, as we did have some Remsen runners do well on the Triple Crown Series last year, but the history of that race has not been stellar over the past couple of decades, so W&L will have to try to buck that trend, but he definitely is a horse coming in with the best last out speed figure. As we take a look at the second page of runners in this field, there are some others listed at single digits on the morning line, like the number 11 Litigate at 5-1, also the number 9 Champions of Dream at 9-2. All of these have things to prove as they try to turns and stretch out in distance. So a lot of runners to consider in this race beyond the favorite. We're going to try to talk about as many of the contenders as we can. But before we do that, let's take a look at the TimeformUS pace projector for this Sam F. Davis. Fast-paced predicted here, not a big surprise given the large field signed on. The number 10, Dreaming of Kona, is shown on the early lead. He is a horse that has been stalking the pace in his recent one-turn starts, but trying 2 turns for the first time. He does figure to go forward. The same also true of the number 12, Zydeco, a horse that will be stretching out beyond 7 furlongs for the first time, who has shown a lot of early speed in his races. And you see the number 7, W&L, tucked in between horses there on the pace projector. He'd be looking for just that kind of trip, stalking the pace where he can pounce on those 2 leaders and try to grind it out at the end, which is his running style. Let's also look at the TimeformUS finish projector, one of the new features in the TimeformUS that has debuted on DRF mobile PPs. You can toggle over to the finish projector from the pace projector on your mobile device, and the number 7, W&L, is projected as the winner of this race on the finish projector. Not a big surprise there. The TimeformUS algorithm is based largely on speed figures, and he does have the best last out speed figure coming into this field. So W&L shown as the winner on the finish projector. We'll see if I agree with that at the end of this preview. Well, let's start by taking a look at some of the major contenders, and we'll begin with W&L's last race, the Remsen, and he did gut out this victory over a muddy track, and he's a horse that would love to see some rain in Oldsmar, Florida on Saturday, because both of his victories have come over wet, sealed surfaces. And actually, there is a little bit of rain in the forecast, so we'll see how that develops on Saturday afternoon. But if it is dry, he is a horse that will have to prove himself over a fast track for the first time, because he really hasn't won a race over anything but these wet, sealed surfaces. We will see the horse that he beat last time, Arctic Arrogance, competing in the Withers Stakes on Saturday at Aqueduct. So we'll see. I think that race goes off a little bit earlier than the Sam F. Davis, so we can maybe get a gauge on how that one does before W&L runs back. But this is a horse that is already proven around the 2 turns. He's just going to be looking to show that he has developed from his 2-year-old to 3-year-old season. That's always a question with these horses that show precocity during their juvenile years, and he will take a lot of money in this wide open field. So I think it's up to you how short of a price might be too short on W&L in this Sam F. Davis Stakes on Saturday. Let's move on to a horse coming out of the local prep for this, the Pasco Stakes, Zydeco and Champion's Dream. We'll take a look at the stretch run of that race. And Zydeco gets the job done here, causing an upset at 9-1. Champion's Dream is the gray horse coming through on the inside. He was the expected winner of this race. He went off as the 7-5 favorite, but falls just short, unable to get by that long shot on the run into the wire. I'm not really viewing Zydeco as a major contender in this race, though he will have a likely pace presence. He's going to be a major factor as far as how fast they go on the front end, but Champion's Dream is the real contender coming out of that race, and he's a horse that was previously with the Danny Gargan barn. Danny Gargan, of course, being the trainer of the favorite in this race, W&L, but he was switched away from Danny Gargan to Mark Casse last time and basically held his form, finishing second in this race. I bet the connections were hoping to see a little bit better than that, but now he is stretching out in distance to try the 2 turns for the first time. And while he did win his longest race up until now, the 1 mile, 1 turn Nashua Stakes 2-back, I wasn't the most impressed with his effort that day. He just kind of grinded out that victory in a race that was falling apart at the end. So I'm not too optimistic about him handling added ground. And he is a horse that does have to get a little bit faster from a speed figure standpoint. Some more horses that competed at Tampa Bay Downs last time out are Prairie Hawk and Groveland. Let's take a look at the allowance race that they competed in last time on January 13th. That is Prairie Hawk hugging the rail coming off the far turn, Groveland and those blue Godolphin silks chasing him home to the outside. I thought both of these runners ran pretty well, though they were very much with the race flow. They were going slowly up front this day, sprinted home through the late stages, and that really benefited the eventual winner, Prairie Hawk, a Safi Joseph trainee who has won 2 starts in a row, both at Tampa, since stretching out around the 2 turns. So distance and surface are not a question for this horse, but you can see that red color-coded race rating box last time indicating he was competing on a day at Tampa that was somewhat speed favoring, and those blue color-coded TimeformUS pace figures indicate what I said, that he really did have the race flow in his favor that day. I do believe that this half-brother to stakes winner Quip does have some upside still, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him take a step forward here, but he does have to get faster if he's going to win this race. And the same goes for the number 5 Groveland, this Owen Hardy trainee. Did gamely chase home Prairie Hawk last time, but he had a lot of the same things in his favor, sitting right on top of that moderate pace, so he's another one that is going to have to take a step forward if he's going to be competitive in this Sam F. Davis on Saturday. Some horses are coming in from another Florida track, Gulfstream Park, down south. We'll take a look at probably the most high-profile runner coming in from Gulfstream, and that is the number 11 Litigate. We'll check out his last race when he was second in a 1-mile allowance race at Gulfstream on January 8th. And you might recognize the horse that is pulling away from him in the stretch. That is the number 3 Cyclone Mischief, who went off as the heavy favorite last week in the Holy Bull and just completely failed to show up. He was very disappointing in that race. So that might tarnish the reputation of this allowance race a little bit, because Litigate really was no match for Cyclone Mischief on the run into the wire that day. You could see him getting very tired in the last furlong. So that brings up some questions about him handling added ground. He did win his debut going 6.5 furlongs. And despite the fact that he's a son of Blame, who is thought of as more of a stamina influence, I think the way that he failed to finish off that 1-mile, 1-turn race last time does bring up some questions about this Pletcher trainee's stamina. And the outside post position is also a potentially difficult one, given that he is a horse with some tactical speed. Another runner coming in from Gulfstream Park is Dreaming of Kona. We'll take a look at his last race when he was put up to win the Mucho Macho Man via disqualification. And this was an interesting DQ, because you can see this horse is trying to lug in through the stretch. He's kind of causing problems for the horse to his inside, General Jim, who came back and won the Swale Stakes last week. And he does get interfered with right at the end here by the eventual horse to cross the wire first, the Legacy Isle. But you could see that this horse was green on his own right. He was just kind of hanging on his wrong lead, switching over, not really totally focused on finishing off the race. So that gives me some questions about him handling added ground, stretching out around the 2 turns for the first time. And furthermore, aside from the horse who had trouble in that race, General Jim, the horses that ran back out of the Mucho Macho Man in the Holy Bull last weekend at Gulfstream did not fare particularly well. So I just have some questions about the overall quality of the race that Dreaming of Kona is exiting. Some horses coming in from different directions include Classic Legacy going out for Bill Mott. He is coming off an Aqueduct maiden victory that we'll take a look at here. Now, this was over a sloppy racetrack, so he's going to have to prove that he can be as affected over a fast track if indeed the rain does hold off at Tampa Bay Downs on Saturday. But I like the way this horse finishes off the race. He is, of course, the younger half-brother to Art Collector, also raced by Bruce Lunsford for trainer Bill Mott, the recent winner of the Pegasus World Cup. So some real positive bloodlines for this horse to potentially live up to. And he's only gone 7 furlongs up until now, but of course, Art Collector was a horse that blossomed around 2 turns. So the stretch out in distance really feels like it could work to Classic Legacy's benefit. The problem is his top TimeformUS speed figure in the high 80s. That is just not going to cut it against this field. So he really does need to take a big step forward if he's going to be competitive here. And furthermore, the maiden field that he beat last time out of Aqueduct in the race we were just looking at, that was a pretty sorry bunch compared to some of the races that others are coming out of. So he really does need to take a step forward if he's going to be effective in this race. One more contender that I want to take a look at is the number 6 Classic Car Wash, and we'll check out his last race, which was run at Gulfstream Park over a different surface. This was on the Tapeta synthetic track, but I like the way he finishes off this race in his first attempt going 2 turns. He did get all the best of it on the front end, setting a moderate pace, but he really kicks away from this field well, and the runner-up, Anna Monesta, came back and was a good second in a fast turf race at Tampa Bay Downs in his next start. So that's a strong company line for Classic Car Wash, and he did handle the dirt in his prior start when he broke his maiden in an optional claiming maiden race at Gulfstream Park going 7 furlongs. Finished off that race like he would handle added ground, proved that he could do it last time out, and I think getting back on the dirt is going to be just fine for this Mark Casse trainee. And I also like that he's drawn towards the middle of the pack and has a versatile running style, whereas he doesn't need to be on the lead like he was last time and should be content to get a stalking trip from just off the pace. So let's throw out my picks for this Sam F. Davis Stakes. I've got that favorite, the number 7 WNL, in there. I respect him. He's the proven class horse coming into this race, but there are always questions surrounding this horse, these horses coming off layoffs to launch their 3-year-old campaigns. Sometimes a lot has changed in the intervening months, and I want to check out some horses at bigger prices that could potentially get into the mix. And my top pick in here is the number 6 Classic Car Wash, the horse that I was just discussing. He's 20-1 on the morning line. I don't know if we're going to get a price that's quite that high, but I'd be satisfied with something around 9 or 10-1 because I've liked each of this horse's last 2 races. I think he's a strong finisher who's going to appreciate this distance on the dirt, and he's got that versatility of running style that I think will allow him to work out the right kind of trip in this Sam F. Davis on Saturday at Tampa Bay Downs. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.